Aaron Kindsvatter. He is a counseling professor at the University of Vermont, and the students want him to resign because he had concerns. His concerns were put together on a video, and he released it. It's really well thought out, really articulate, and, in my opinion, not controversial. He's expressing an opinion. If you don't like it, go pound sand, make a video yourself. But they want to silence him. And we asked him to be on the program. We're thrilled to have him on. Hello, Professor. How are you?
Hello, Mr. Beck. I'm very well, thank you.
Good. So, first of all, what do you teach at the university?
I teach psychotherapy. So I help to prepare people who are going to be helping adults who are in mental distress, and I also help to prepare counselors who are going to be working in the schools, who are going to be working with children who are experiencing distress as well.
So it's not that I would dismiss, a professor of mathematics if he had the same view, but this is really in your alley, is it not?
It most certainly is. It most certainly is. And the encroachment of critical race theory into psychotherapy is truly frightening in its implications for the mental health of both children and adults.
Tell me why.
Well, there are two different reasons. For children need a particular environment in which to flourish, and it's an environment where no conditions are placed upon their sense of self-worth. Now, obviously, there are rules that they need to learn and so forth, but you don't convey to a child that they are good or bad based on what they do. And this ideology, and in particular Kindy's version of anti-racism, establishes very strict parameters of viewing oneself and other people as either good or evil. But in Kindy's language, he's using the term racist or anti-racist. But it's essentially you're either good or evil morality ideology.
And it's not. There's no. To me, it's teaching our children that you don't have a chance. If you're white now, you really don't have a chance because you're part of Team Evil, and if you are a person of color, well, they're teaching you really don't have a chance unless we all get together and stop these people on Team Evil. So it's just crushing the individual, is it not?
It most certainly is. It is saying that. In order to be an acceptable person, you must first claim fealty to this ideology. And I would just add to that for children of color and black children, they are not safe from this either, because if they don't toe this line, then there are lots of interesting names that are being created within academia. For them, the most the one that I've just heard recently that's come out is multiracial whiteness, and it's a way to take a person of color or a black person and say, "Well, you're just white," and which is meant to be an insult,
right,
from that perspective. So I don't even know if this is. This conversation can get derailed by thinking of this in terms of a white thing or a black thing. What this really is this is a racist thing. It's racism, and racism is contagious, and it once all it needs is a foothold and an air of legitimacy, and then it will flow out into society and be adopted widely to the detriment of every person. And the University of Vermont right now is giving the habits of mind that inform racism. The administration is presenting this as a form of intellectual refinement. And right now, it gains legitimacy by saying, well, we're focusing on whiteness. But, no habit of mind that is so crude and so destructive is going to stay focused on whiteness. This is going to find its way to the doorstep of persons who have the least amount of power in society to defend themselves from it. And
give me an example of that. What do you mean by that?
Well, that people who new Americans, for example, in Burlington, don't speak the language. They don't. They're not familiar with our culture. They're just coming in. They're coming in from war-torn countries. Those people need a liberal society, one in which they are protected from ridiculous views and categorizations about who they are. And traditional liberalism that looks at people as individuals and that insists that any claims about individuals be subjected to skepticism and empiricism helps to protect even the least powerful among us. When we start making unsubstantiated claims about a link between a particular race and, vaguely defined social ills, it tends to find its way down to the people who are not in a position to protect themselves.
I hate to bring it here, but I unfortunately am going to. I'm a historian wannabe, and I collect a lot of documents, and I collect a lot of the dark side stuff about America and the world. And I have the teachers' manuals from Germany that teach how the Jews are subhuman and how the children are to treat those Jews. And I see a lot of similarities here. We had that study, what was it, in the 1960s, maybe 1960, where the classroom was told we're going to do blue eyes and brown eyes. And by the time they went out for recess, they were already in separate groups. I mean, this is what we're doing, isn't it?
It is. And the thing is, Glenn, like even 2 years ago, I would have said, oh, no, we're not to that point yet. I think we are dangerously close to coming to a point that you're talking about with these teaching manuals. I have been wanting to go back and look at what this looked like when it happened in Germany, because I'm absolutely convinced that the thought processes, the habits of mind, and the dehumanization are the same. I think where people keep getting derailed in recognizing this as much of a problem as it is that they think of this in terms of, this is just society talking back to the powerful. But they have to realize, and what they mean by that is, that white people are considered to exist higher on this intersectional ladder. But this way of thinking is so contagious, and it's, I'm sure that there are good intentions behind, turning towards whiteness, but it would take virtually no time at all for the conversation, and I'm even hearing whispers about this now, to where now Asian people are part of the problem because, look, they're even more successful than white people are. And yet you're beginning to hear whispers of that. And,
no, there's not whispers. I'll hang on just a sec. Give me a minute. I got to do a commercial. We come back. They're not whispers. They're screaming it from the top of their lungs. The vice president of the school board of San Francisco is saying that very thing right now. We're with Aaron Kindsvatter, a professor who is in trouble at his university. How much trouble, first of all, are you in?
I don't know. It's hard to say how or if this situation will escalate. What I can say now,
being on the Glenn Beck program is not going to help you.
Well, one of the things that I appreciate about you, Mr. Beck, is that I do think that you are someone who has spoken to both sides of the political aisle, and it doesn't mean that you have to think about, you don't have to believe what people on the other side of the aisle believe, but you do send out a message of unity. And people are talking about our great polarization in this country right now. I'm starting to think that it's going to be like people like you and I who are talking to our neighbors and our friends and sitting down and saying, let's have a conversation about our differences, that is going to lead us forward rather than rather than institutions that are putting on programs like Turning Towards Whiteness.
Oh yeah, I will tell you that it's going to take it's going to take local effort, and it's going to take person to person just reaching out and going, come on. I mean, because you said in your speech, let me see if I can find it here real quick. You said about unity that we have a lot in common. You said we all share the same values. We all want the same thing for our university and our society. Is that true?
Well, not at the University of Vermont, but I do think that I am absolutely convinced that this is true among most people. But at the University of Vermont, their response to me, the provost's response, was to say, my values do not represent the values of the university. And then encouraged to some degree members of the university, and including colleagues in my department, in their in the steps that they were taking to ostracize me. So that was a pretty shocking response from the provost of the university.
Let me give you this. This is from the vice president of the school board in San Francisco. I can't remember her name. Her last name is Collins. She just spoke about Asian Americans. She said, many Asian Americans believe they benefit from the model minority BS. In fact, many Asian American teachers, students, and parents actively promote these myths. They use white supremacist thinking to assimilate and get ahead.
Oh, boy. That has just got to stop. The use of, I mean, we can talk about why this is so effective, but I think that one thing that the average, I realize that not everyone has time to sit down and study these matters, but people must absolutely understand that the people who are saying things like that tend to be master manipulators. And so when they are deciding what to name things, they name them in such a way that it pushes the part of our psychology that responds to guilty feelings, which is a very, very effective manipulation technique.
And
when
pernicious.
Someone says, pernicious. I cannot believe that how ubiquitous this is. And white supremacy is a good example of that. Now, no reasonable person would not say that white supremacy, as it was at a time where one particular race was holding itself above another, was not a bad thing. And so what people who are using terms like this have done is to say, we understand now that the very worst thing that you can call someone is a racist or a white supremacist. So we're going to change what that means in order to guilt people into not putting up too much of a fight when we ask that they adopt these other ideologies.